My brother Lucas loves animals. One day when I was a kid, he brought home a horse. A great big horse. We didn't have a place for a horse. There was no room for a horse. It wasn't a horse property. We lived near horse property. There were horse stables all around us. It was not strange to see cowboys riding up and down the street in their horses and their big hats. My parents let him keep this horse. We got a couple of bales of hay. We threw hay around the backyard, and we had a stable. The horse's name was Meathead, named after a popular a TV show character on All in the Family. Meathead the horse was very old. I don't know anything about horses, but I knew from the Looney Tune cartoons that when a horse's back has a great big dip in it, this is probably not a good horse anymore. Well, Meathead was this old horse that someone got rid of. I think my brother said he paid $15 for it. You know, this is 1970s, $15, too much for this horse. He came to live with us. I didn't like Meathead, and I remember exactly why. We were all standing around him once, a number of us, talking about him. My brother was brushing him or something, and Meathead moved his hoof over from one space to the other. Didn't move the rest of himself, didn't move it all, just went dunk. And he moved his hoof from the pavement to on top of my foot. And he pressed it there. My foot did not get broken ultimately. He didn't run away, he didn't grind, he just put it there. And it was like when a cat puts their claws into you and they're not being friendly and they're just kind of letting you know who's boss. This is what I believed was happening with Meathead the rotten horse. He stepped on me and I was like, wow, like Jerry Lewis. I was making these Jerry Lewis noises and everyone's going, no, Meathead, get away, Meathead. My brother's, no, shaking him. The horse wouldn't move. And then after a time, Meathead then lifted his foot and moved it back to where it was. And then the ordeal ended. So I didn't like Meathead, the horse. And one day my mother told my brother to get rid of Meathead. So that was the end of him. But still, my brother loved animals. He brings home another time. From the dog pound, this would be a rescue animal, right? Long before it was fashionable, my brother goes and he brings home from the dog pound a Saint Bernard dog. Full-grown Saint Bernard, huge, immense this dog was. I believe my brother had a little Vega at the time, and maybe I'm misremembering cars, but the dog took up the entire back seat of this car. And he came home, and I thought, wow, okay, what a big dog this Brutus is. I thought the dog pound, when I was a kid, I thought they gave you the dogs for free, because you're taking them off their hands. But no, it turns out, in these 1970s dollars, Meathead cost like $60. And I knew this wouldn't fly with my father, but I wasn't going to be the one to tell him. So anyway, I don't know what happened with that. But Meathead came and lived with us, and he seemed to have a great life. He seemed to be very happy and nice. I remember we took him out after it had rained a lot, and we lived near the San Gabriel River, and all the sands were very wet and they were very shiny at the time we were there. And Meathead ran around in these sands, and they were so deep and he was so heavy, his paws would fall in really deep, and he pulled his legs out and he ran around. I remember that about him. He very happy. He ran around, and I don't remember him jumping on me or anything like that. Pretty well behaved. Though he was immense, he got to come into the house and be in the living room, and if he sat still, it was okay, but mostly he was out in the backyard. This was very strange for our dogs, because usually there was an inside portion to them. Meathead, none of that. Too big. Not Meathead, Brutus. Did I say his name yet even? He was Brutus the dog, if I haven't said. So Brutus lives in the backyard, pretty swell dog, but things all turned. And this is like we only had him for like 6 months, 9 months, it seems. And here was the kind of the hearkening of Brutus's doom was we're babysitting this kid Jesse, aka Snake Man, named after this movie. There's a movie called just all S's, and it was on television. And we let Snake Man watch it with us when he was 4 years old, and my parents weren't there. We were supposed to be watching him. And this guy turns into a snake, and he's all wiggling around, and Snake Man freaks out at 4 years old and goes, "It's a snake man, it's a snake man," and started running in circles. And so so we had to tell him everything was fine. And after that, his name became Snake Man, which just has been a torture, I realize now, but oh well. He became AKA Snake Man. One day, Snake Man was bothering Brutus in the backyard. We were telling him, "Snake Man, don't do that. Don't bother the dog." And he kept doing it. He was playing with his ears and kind of picking his head up and doing things. And no, the dog was always a good dog. So told him to stop. Snake Man didn't stop. And the straw that broke the camel's back literally was when little Jesse had plopped his behind down on Brutus's back. He plopped down. Brutus immediately leaped up, roared, and bit Snake Man on the head like the way the way tongs get ice. Bit him on the head and lifted him up and shook him all around. And we all jumped up. "Oh no, Brutus!" He tossed Snake Man across the room and then went back to his spot and walked in a circle and lay down very grumpily. Snake Man, thank goodness, the skin didn't break. He had 2 big deep indents on his temples on either side where the dog had really dug in, and he lifted him up and like thrown him. His feet were in the air, and he threw Snake Man across the room. It was frightening. But ultimately, my brother looked at him. We looked at both sides of his head, and he realized, oh, he's fine. And we all sat down. No one told anybody, and we never told my mother, I don't think. And that was that. So he was okay. His mother, it never came back to us anyway about Snake Man getting bit in the head, as I recall. But maybe anyway. So anyway, after this, things weren't right with Brutus, I noticed, and he seemed to be more sluggish. And one day I'd come home from school, and I get home from school, Brutus isn't home. And I asked my mother, "Where's Brutus?" And he says, "Oh, he got sick, and Lucas had to take him away or whatever or something." And I didn't pay attention. I didn't know what happened. I'm like, okay. And so whatever happened the rest of the day. My father gets home. He gets home at 5 o'clock. He's a truck driver. He usually comes home kind of sweaty. He gets home at 5 o'clock. And his routine is always to go take a shower, change clothes, and come back, and we have dinner, which is always ready for him, 5 o'clock. But before he takes a shower, he comes home and says all his hellos. And when he says all his hellos and he's still all in his work garb, he speaks to me and hey, whatever, everything's great. He asks my brother, "How's it going?" He asks my brother Lucas, "How's it going?" Lucas tells him that Brutus got very ill. And we had to take him to the emergency room. And the doctor said that Brutus was probably going to be, and my father interrupts him very quietly. He goes, hold on. He goes, "Did you say that Brutus is in the emergency room?" And my brother says, "Yes, Brutus is in the emergency room and he's very sick, but the doctor said that my mother, get in the car right now." And my father grabbed the keys, just "Get in the car right now." And he runs and gets to the car. Now, I wasn't invited, but I know an opportunity when I see one. And I ran in the car and I jumped in the back seat. My father started the station wagon and he peeled out, in my mind, and we drove from our house to the Central Animal Hospital on Central and Garvey at top speed. I mean, we were there in an instant. And I remember we stopped the car. My father runs in way ahead of us, and he pushes open the doors, and he goes to the counter. He slaps his hands on the counter, and he says, "My name is Trujillo. You have my dog. The dog's name is Brutus. He's a Saint Bernard." He goes, "Bring him to me. Give him to me. Give me that dog." And the lady's like, "What's happening?" He says, gives him his name. "Here's my name. It's a Saint Bernard. His name is Brutus. I need the dog. I need you to give him to me right now." And the lady's like, well, he was left with, here he is, Lucas. They gave him the dog. He's in the, give me the dog. Give me the dog. "Well, sir, would you like to, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to talk to the doctor. I want you to give me the dog, give me the dog, give me the dog, give me the dog, give me the dog right now." And as I recall, my brother was cursing a lot, actually, because the lady wasn't giving him the dog. And he was like, "Lady, give me the effing dog. I'm telling you, give me this effing dog." He wasn't threatening. He was just he understood that there was a bill to be paid, and he wanted no more of it than what he needed right then. And I remember the doctor come out, "Mr. Trujillo, give me the effing dog." He was like, Give me the dog." He said, I'm not paying for anything. When my father said he wasn't paying, "If you give me that dog right now, I'm not paying." They rushed out and got the dog, and they gave it back to my father. And we helped them, we threw him in the back of the station wagon. We got back in the car, slammed it in gear, looked back. My brother didn't say anything. My father just glared at him the whole way. We drove back. Well, Brutus, who had just had an IV and had a long day at he was sloshing around in the back of the seat of the car in the station wagon. And we got home, and there was an immense bill to pay. And I think that's when I heard about the $60 too in the first place. Oh, this dog, he cost $60 in the first place, and now there's going to be this giant bill. And anyway, the end came. My mother and I happened to be looking out the back door, at the back window of the kitchen, where you could see into the backyard where Brutus lived. He had a great chain around him because he was a very strong dog. And I remember he was kind of walking. He hadn't been looking well. And we both happened to be looking, my mother and I, out the window. And Brutus kind of stopped and keeled over. Boom. We went out and checked, and my mother said, "Call Lucas." I don't know who was there, but Brutus died. He didn't make it anymore. And I remember my father pointing out that Brutus had a great life, pulled out of the dog pound. They were going to gas him for sure. And he had this incredible last 11 months of life. Even went to the emergency room and prolonged his life an extra 3 months for a great deal of money. So nobody should mourn Brutus. And so we didn't. We had Brutus. I think we even paid to have him. I don't know what we did with that dog. If there was money involved, we didn't do it. If my father had, we just threw him in the riverbed or something. But anyway, my brother Lucas always had terrible, terrible luck with pets.